Now we will learn about the chapter New Empires and Kingdom. We have already learnt about Ashoka. We have seen that he was the king who started writing about everything, his achievement, what he actually wanted from his subjects, what he wanted to spread amongst his subject, everything. He started writing them down in the way of inscription, and some of the time the how whatever his orders, that those also has written as edicts. So inscriptions and edicts we have seen at the time of Ashoka, that has taken a major part to know about history. After Ashoka, after this time, we have seen that a new way of writing about the king that has taken place, which actually worked marvelous for the people, those who were searching the truth about history. These all were known as prashastis. Literally meaning of prashasti is to praise someone. So now whom they are praising? Naturally the king. Most of the prashastis, rather we can say all of the prashastis, they were written praising their ruler or their lord or the king. It is written in that way. Not all the time they have wasted their time in searching some place and then to write. Some of the greatest prashastis are on the available site, what already was made by someone in the past. They utilized them and they wrote about their king on those rock pieces or rock pillars on them. As like the prashasti that that tells us even today about Gupta dynasty, the most, that it is Allahabad Prashasti, which is written on Ashoka pillar. It was already there from the time of Ashoka. The court poet of Samudragupta, he has written about Samudragupta, his achievement, his genealogies on this Allahabad Prashasti, which is a great source of information about Samudragupta. So in this chapter about this new kingdoms, we learned about Samudragupta. Let me tell you something before we come to the topic, exactly this topic, to Samudragupta. Gupta dynasty, it was started from a very small place. The first two Guptas, we are not considering them as the founder of the Gupta dynasty. We consider Chandragupta I as the founder of Gupta dynasty, as he was the one who started spreading this from a very small place to a mighty city named Patliputra. He was married to Kumara Devi. She was from Lichavigana and their son was Samudragupta. What Samudragupta was a real combination of, we can say he was a genius of all type. Like he was a great musician, he was a great ruler, he was a great administrator. At the same time, we got some gold coins where we have seen that he was a great musician also. He used to play Veena very well. So we got all these evidences. Now this Allahabad Prashasti, it stated that Samudragupta was the ruler who was, his kingdom was not only confined in the northern part of India, but he started conquering the southern part also. This Prashasti described Samudragupta as a great warrior who is there on the battlefield with his soldiers, and he has many scars on his body, which is described like they are the like the pulse, the wounds were there on his body. As he was a ruler, he was a warrior of 100 battles. He was a great king. He was compared with Napoleon Bonaparte also, as he never lost any of his battles. What it is written on the Prashasti, we can compare him with Napoleon Bonaparte. And in the Prashasti it is written that he never lost any of the battles he fought against his enemies. He started conquering one after another places in the starting from the north to the south. But remember, we need to remember one thing, that he never implies the same policies everywhere whatever the kingdoms he has conquered. These descriptions also we can find in the Prashasti, that how he divided the way how to rule all the kingdoms, and which must be beneficial for everyone of his subject and his capital city also mainly. Samudragupta's whatever the rulers, they fought with Samudragupta and they lost the battle. There were 9 in the Aryavarta. Aryavarta means in the northern India. Samudragupta captured their territory and it was completely his rule over there. But the other places, like ruler of Dakshinapata, who was 12 rulers, some of whose capitals were marked like the way that they surrendered Samudragupta after they lost the battle, and they were allowed to rule again. The reason for that, like, it was not so easy for those days to control these 12 states from sitting in the North India, in a place in the northern place of India, because it was not so easy to commute every time to these all places. So naturally there will be a tendency for these all rulers to make them independent again in the future. To control that, what Samudragupta did, he has given permission to rule their own territory, but they were supposed to be under his control. The places he has annexed, the rulers, they need to pay an annual tribute to Samudragupta. Actually, that helped the economy of the state a lot. With this annual tribute, Samudragupta was able to bring more prosperity in his for his kingdom, but at the same time we can see that these all kings were happy because they are ruling their own territory, but they are maintaining a good friendly relation with Gupta dynasty. The other way, we have seen that some states like Assam, coastal Bengal, Nepal, number of Gana Sanghas were there, and they also need to pay tribute, and they need to follow Samudragupta's order. They need to follow all the rules and regulations, but they were not under direct control of the king. The rulers, those who were a little outside, the Kushanas and some Sri Lankans, they submitted, and most of them were they have a marital relation, that these all places must follow a friendly and good relation, and they must not fight when the enemy, they must give their army, they must supply their help when the king is in danger, the Samudragupta is in danger. In this way, the territories, whatever Samudragupta captured, defeated the rulers, he actually divided them the way it is beneficial for his administration. Now, I told you about genealogy. Kumara Devi, Chandragupta's wife, he was from Licchavi Gana. Now, Gana, we know that that's a place of tribes where many of them, they are there, and many kings are there, and they are giving a combined opinion to control the administration. In this marriage, Patliputra was a dowry from Kumara Devi's side, and Chandragupta, he owned the title of Maharaja Dhiraj, the king of all kings. That means whatever the Ganas and other small kings were there, he was above them all, and he placed himself as Maharaja Dhiraj, and he started ruling this entire territory. Samudragupta also followed his father. He also addressed titles, received this title as Maharaja Dhiraj. He was a great king of all the ways. Samudragupta turned figures of genealogies on the latter rulers of the dynasty, such as his son, like Chandragupta II. Here we can see that they are following the dynasty rule, like Chandragupta I, his son Samudragupta, and his son who occupied the, who was the next ruler, he was addressed as Chandragupta II. His name was Chandragupta II, though later he has taken the another title like Vikramaditya, a king who has the power like sun. He was titled himself as Vikramaditya. And all these inscriptions, coins available from his time period, Samudragupta's time period, and mainly this Prashasti, Allahabad Prashasti, that is a great help for us to know about them, and it's a great help for history also to know about exactly what happened at the time of the Guptas. Now we will be coming about Harshavardhana. Harshavardhana was a ruler. He was a little, his story is a little different. Let me tell you the story first, then we will come to the historical part, the fact what happened in Harsha's life. Harshavardhana's father, Prabhakar Vardhan, he was a ruler of Thaneswar. Now, he had two sons, Rajyavardhan, and the youngest one was Harshavardhan, and one daughter, Rajasri. Now, after marriage, Rajasri's husband, Grihavarman, he was actually looking after these two youngest rulers, that is Rajyavardhan and Harshavardhan, because after Prabhakar Vardhan's death, there was no as such guardian for them. Though Harshavardhan was youngest, he became the king because his brother Rajyavardhan, he was killed treacherously by the ruler of Bengal and Assam, and then because they wanted to take the revenge against the treacherous killing of their brother-in-law Grihavarman. Rajasri was about to commit sati when Harshavardhan rescued her, and then Rajasri spent her entire life in spread of education, and she was the first lady vice chancellor of Nalanda University. Harshavardhan was a king. His poet Banavatta, who has written Harshacharita, and we can get a good description about Harshavardhan in this book. Zhang Wang also spent some time, that is Yuan Sang, he spent some time at Harsha's court, and even his account, whatever he has written, that they are also a great help to get information about Harshavardhan's rule. Now, after Harshavardhan, though he was successful to capture many of the places in the northern India, he was not that successful to capture places there go beyond Narmada. Here we have seen another ruler, his name is Pulakeshi II, who stopped him on the bank of Narmada, and it is said that Harsha was no more Harsha. Harsha, literally meaning of this word, Harsha means pleasure. So Harsha had no pleasure because he was not able to cross Narmada river, and it is said that after this Harsha his mindset also changed, and he stopped warfare, and he accepted Buddhism. Though he accepted Buddhism, he was a worshipper of sun god and Shiva also, and he used to spend a lot for the benefit of his subject. So this is about Harshavardhana. What we have seen here, that Harsha as a king, he also gave a lot of donation for building monasteries as well as temples, and he spent a lot for the common people of his territory. So we have learned about Samudragupta and Harshavardhana. Now we are coming to the southern India, Deccan side, where we found at this time the most promising rulers, those who are actually most importantly ruling the dynasties, they were Pallavas and Chalukyas. We will discuss now about them. Pallavas and Chalukyas, they were the most important ruling dynasty at that time, at this time period, and their region was for Pallavas. Now if we see this, we will see that they tried to control the river Doab area, mostly the delta area of two major rivers, one is Krishna, one is Kaveri. Krishna river, that is the Raichur Doab, that was controlled by Chalukya, and Kaveri delta was controlled by Pallava. Pallava's king capital was Kanchipuram and Chalukya's capital was Aihole. Chalukya's capital was Aihole. That was in Raichur Doab. It is in Krishna river delta. It is in Krishna and Tungabhadra river. They merged together. In that Doab, this dynasty developed. That is Chalukya dynasty. Now, what we have seen that the Chalukya ruler Pulakeshi II, he stopped Harshavardhan to come towards Deccan. Now, which area they ruled? They ruled the Kanchipuram was their capital for Pallavas, and they ruled the Kaveri delta. From there, they started capturing one after places, and he was the most promising ruler who stopped Harshavardhan to cross Narmada river. We have seen that Pulakeshi II, he was also not received this kingdom from his father, rather he received it from his uncle, because he was the most promising one to get the kingdom. And we came to know again about Pulakeshi II from a Prashasti that was written by his court poet Ravikriti. Besides, he checked the advance of as he checked the advance of Harsha. Here many stories like how the warfare happened and how their mighty king he stopped, these all was written in this Prashasti. There was some interesting play also in the poem that where it is the poet said that the defeat that has actually snatched the happiness, the pleasure from Harsha, whose name literally meant as pleasure or happiness. Now, Pulakeshi also attacked the Pallava king, but about that battle also it is written in the Prashasti. And Chalukya, but we have to consider that this Chalukya victory that was very much short lived, as after Pulakeshi II we have not found that many Chalukya kings who can control, we can continue with this major name and fame. Rather, the kings, Chola kings afterwards, we have seen that it was completely, the Chalukyas were defeated by Cholas, and Chola rulers, they started controlling these areas. Now we will see how was their army and administration. First, when we are discussing about their army, we need to discuss that how it was. We have seen that the first army was something like the army in Magadha, the time of Chandragupta Maurya, what we have seen at the time of Alexander when he came to India. We have seen that army was something that is a huge mighty one, that people, the soldiers of Alexander was actually, they were scared to come, they were scared to fight with this mighty army of Magadha without even knowing that they are able to fight or not. So whenever the king they need any help, all the common people, they used to even help the king by joining the army. Next, we have seen at the time of Kalinga war that Ashoka has a trained armed force, whereas the Kalinga king, they didn't. So it was a battle between a trained armed power and against some few common people, and the result we all know. This is the time when we have seen a big change, the way the kings they started thinking. Samudragupta's army, again it was well trained army at this time, and we have seen that many people they got importance because of their military power, that they sometimes these administrative posts they are given to some of the people, those who are literally strong, they have money, they have their family background, or they have that power in their hand. Like we have seen that Harsha's court poet Harisena, he was a chief judicial officer, that is Mahadanda Nayaka in his time. But as well as not only the same person, He was also he has held many offices, just like not only the chief justice. At the same time, even he was some important minister like Kumar Amartya, and at the same time he was Sandhi Vigrahaka, like the meaning is he was working for the minister who is working for war and peace, and it was mostly they are getting it from their fathers. It is a family tradition that they are holding all these posts in the administration. At the same time, we have seen that the people, those who have much power and much money in their hand, like the biggest trader in the city, he has given a special post, like he will be the main banker of the city, and he is respected by all, and he worked also in that way. On the other side, someone who is the head of a community, they also got their special respect and special place, like the potters community, their head, they also they got their own particular places, or some other crafts person, the head of kayasthas of the society, like that they have given many posts to many people, those who deserve them. Now, these things actually effective, but sooner or later some other powerful men they grew. It is not possible that every generation will held the same position in the society. So naturally it started changing, and the rulers they had no other option to accept the change in the society in this way. This is the time the king started maintaining an organized army. I told you, the trained manpower who was appointed to become a soldier. And the soldiers, it is not always that these soldiers are always paid by the king. It was not like that. Sometimes, but head of the soldiers, a person is appointed as the head of the soldiers. Now, this person is given responsibility to feed his own soldiers. In reward, they are getting some land property or some of the villages to look after. Now, whatever they are gaining from these villages, they can impose some taxes, and they are gaining from these villages or some for these land areas, whatever is given to them, they need to develop their armed power, and they need to get ready with their whenever it is needed for the king to help them. They need to have a good elephants in them, horses and chariots and other weapons also, to get it ready to help their king whenever they need them. Now, these type of the small chieftain, those who started gaining power from the king. If the king is powerful, in that case the chieftain are always, if they followed the king and they help the king whenever it is needed. But many of the cases we have seen that these people, those who are, they started gaining more power if king is weak, and they ended up revolting and became independent. Here we find two types of assemblies in the kingdom. One is Sabha and another one is Ur. Sabha is the assembly where we have seen that the Brahmins, they assemble together. It is an assembly for the Brahmins, and these assembly to many subcommittees. They looked for agricultural operation, making roads and or making temples, local temples, their administration and other things. And Ur, that was a village assembly. We found that where the owners, the landowners were not Brahmin. So mostly the villages also divided in that way. If in a village the most landowners they are Brahmin, then they are forming Sabha, and this Sabha is actually controlling the society there, the village there. And if the most landowner are not Brahmins, they are, then in that case we call them Ur, and this Ur was controlled. They also do the same thing as the Brahmins, but they are mostly the merchants, and but they have maximum, they have the power to control the administration of a Nagara, and they took care of the local administration in their level. Now villagers, they are likely the assemblies, they control many of these one, the common villagers also, they are a part of this assembly and they can even express their opinion. We call it as samiti, where all the people of the common village, they are together, and though Sabha is responsible to take the major decision, but Samiti members also, every adult of the village, they are also allowed to give their opinion or discuss their problem wherever it is needed. Now, Prashastis, we have seen in one hand, they told us about the all the kings, what they have done, how they ruled, how they gained their territory, how big was their territory, how great was the ruler, how many gold coins they issued. We got information about them. How to know about common people, ordinary people of the society? It was really very, it was not really written the way inscriptions are written. It is not really written the way Prashastis are written. But if we go through the plays, poems, or the write-ups, novels of this time period, we can see that we can have a glimpse of common ordinary people, how they live their life. As if we read about Avigyanam Sakuntalam, that is composed by Kalidasa, here we have find that the king and the major, that Brahmins, the king, the gods, their conversation always is in Sanskrit, but the local common village people, they are using a Prakrit language. So in this way we can get a glimpse that how was the common people in the society. The next, another way we have seen that Chinese pilgrim, that is Fa Hien, when he came to India, he has written a travel go about his visit. Here he has mentioned about the strong caste system in the society. He said that the people, those who are considered as untouchables, they had no right even to enter in a marketplace, common marketplace, without informing others that they are the untouchables. They need to inform the way they have to carry some stick in their hand. They used to beat a strong object using those sticks. That was the information they are passing to other people, that they are untouchable, and other people, they must not touch them or anyway come to their way, even not touch their shadow. That was the customs followed in the society. Banbhatta provide a vivid picture of king's army. Now, how king's army they used to move. A king, when he is, like if we consider how Samudragupta, he had won the entire Deccan Path, Dakshina Path. If we see that this type of description, when king is moving with his enormous army, that means an army that is carrying enormous number of equipment also. They are carrying their food, they are carrying their luxuries with them, they are carrying their weapon with them. Even the cooks, even the poets, even the people, those who are giving some kind of pleasure to the king, all are going along with the soldiers, with the king. It was a complete force, we can say, who are passing to conquer one after another place. Now, when they are entering in a village on their way, that entire village was under their control. In that case, the villagers were forced to, like they are bound to give them whatever their requirement is. If they need shelter, they need to provide shelter. If they need some food, the villagers, they have to give their food. And sometimes also it happens that due to these animals, those who are in the troop, like the biggest huge elephants or the horses or the oxen, those who are carrying the cart, they cause a lots of disturbance in the villages, destruction also in the village properties. They had to accept it, but the villagers, they felt like this is the right time. If they get a glimpse of their king, they can even share their problem with the king, and king will be there to solve their problem. They also try to do it in that way. Banbhatta says at the end, like when the king they left the place, the whole world was swallowed up in dust. That is full of dust. No more like that village as it was before, when the king entered in the village with his army. It was no more like that. Now, this was the scenario of India at this point of time. We have to remember this is the time when in Arabia and the major religion was developing, that had a great control in the next part of history of India, that is Islam. This is the time when Muhammad he started preaching Islam in Arabian countries, Middle East countries, and then it spreaded throughout the world.